Sorry about the record button. So again, I want to welcome you all for joining us today as our Josh Gibson webinar series. We're getting close to the end of the year, so we're excited to have Mr. Dorian Hairston, who's going to perform his poetry about Josh Gibson. We're excited about that. But again, I want to thank you for joining us today. If you know anyone, we are looking for speakers for next year. So if anybody's interested or know anybody that think would be a great speaker for our 2026 series, please reach out to myself or Ted Noor. But again, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. We're looking for a great presentation. I'm going to turn over to Ted Noor, who will introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, Sean. I met Dorian Hairston last year in August in Louisville at the 25th annual Jerry Malloy Negro League Conference, and he was a big hit. On the second day of the conference, we all experienced what we're all about to do today. He presented on his compilation of poetry that's contained in this book. Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow, the story of Josh Gibson. So I'm not going to say anything else other than I'd like to present to you a son, a brother, a poet, a scholar, an educator, and an African American baseball player, Dorian Hairston.
Sean, Ted, thank you all so much. As was stated, my name is Dorian Hairston. I am an Affrilachian poet, high school English teacher, husband, father, son, all of those things. And of course, a poet. And before I get started with reading some poems from this collection, Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow, the story of Josh Gibson. As an Affrilachian poet, one of my mentors is Frank X. Walker, and he actually wrote the blurb on the back of the book. And one of the charges that he always gives us is to try to read something new that you're working on whenever you do a poetry reading. So I'm actually going to read two new poems to start us out, and then I'll get into some of the poems from the collection, and then field some questions, pun intended, if anybody has any, and then we'll go from there. So this first poem, I write a lot of what's called persona poetry, historical persona poetry. So I try to take on the persona of some character, historical figure, and write poetry from their point of view and their voice. And this new collection that I've been working on this new project that I've been working on is, surrounding the ownership of the Negro Leagues. Abe and Effa Manley are the two folks you'll hear from today. But of course, you got Gus Greenlee and Cum Posey up in Pittsburgh, which were both owners of the teams that Josh has spent the bulk of his career playing for, the Crawfords and, of course, the Grays. So Abe Manley is the co-owner of the Newark Eagles. They're the team that wins the Negro League World Series right before Jackie Robinson famously breaks the color barrier for the Brooklyn Dodgers, or while playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And one of the things that happens in early baseball during integration is you see a lot of these scouts going and trying to identify the best talent in the Negro Leagues and essentially poach them from this unorganized, air quotes, style of baseball and move them into organized ball. They called themselves ivory hunters, which I find rather fitting given the style that they used, or the tactics that they used in order to identify these potential players. So Abe has some things to say about ivory hunters. It's titled Ivory Hunters, persona Abe Manley. Over in Brooklyn, New York, St. Louis, and Boston, and Detroit, and Cleveland, They got ivory hunters who waste their time poaching minor leagues, and soon these Negro ones for talented and developing elephants. It is a shame, should be criminal, and no doubt sinful to think you can rename these fauna beast to justify your hunt and with devilish precision rid the earth of our creator's graceful soul in a not so intricate game of target practice, which you have mistagged as sport. Only you can convert this brutal root canal into some form of business, a religion, worshiping endless prophetic dead presidents who no doubt forcibly displace limbs and villages and families and tongues for speaking true in this non-consensual extraction of teeth, transplanting all into that first blasphemous mouth, replacing rotting, sugar-ridden, decaying, decrepit dentition with stolen, healthy black ones. Your kinfolk stacked buffalo carcasses into an asymmetrical pyramid of profanity and abomination, an unjustifiable attempt at the Tower of Babel. Here's the plan. Once we have enough money to protect the sanctity of creation, we will replace the ivory tusk with black bones and call the glossy enamel black ivory, and agree whenever anything European seeks to extract beauty for profit, we do some ivory hunting ourselves. So that's thank you. So that's Ivory Hunters, and I'm gonna be drinking a lot of water in between. But this next poem is titled Effa versus Ray. And Ray is a made up character. The thing about Effa Manley is there aren't really, to my knowledge, in baseball history, any persons, any personas, any characters that exist to rival her. So I had to make one up. So this character Ray, Effa Manley is the only woman in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. She organized all over Newark, New Jersey. Spent a lot of time organizing, particularly Black labor in Newark. And made sure that she also negotiated that when Larry Doby went over to the Cleveland Indians, now Guardians, that not only Larry Doby get paid, but she get paid as well. She was a boss. So this is Effa Manley versus Ray. It's a contrapuntal. Basically, what you gotta know about this, it's a form of poetry. There's a left side, and that's one voice. There's a right side, and that's another voice. And then you can read them together, and that's a third voice. That's more complete. And it's about the practice of using the police to remove unruly fans at Negro League baseball games, and the irony of that practice. Effa. There is no place for drunkenness at the park. We Black folk must remain virtuous at all crossroads, since it makes little sense to squeeze coppers together and be intoxicated as they consider colonizing our whole culture, the park, the players, the fans, and never give ownership a bloody cent, turn entire institutions to ashes by not so subtly dropping bombs and bullets around the entire community. Understand this, Black folk. If we are not careful, acting how we act can warrant the inevitable death of our people. Here's Ray. The bar across the street where police stake out to ensure we remain publicly respectable be our only opportunity to escape to freedom, to steal ourselves away to the blues while underneath their voyeuristic gaze we sing, ignoring their attempts to contemplate confiscation of stuff that can't belong to nobody. But then again, these are the same folk conjuring the police in the first place. Badge numbers shielding property for those possessing assets to preserve. Once we call the police, every movement after reinforces their service and protection, translating to the ungodly profits of whiteness. all the way across. There is no place for the bar across the street where police stake out drunkenness at the park to ensure we remain publicly respectable. We Black folk must be our only opportunity to remain virtuous at all crossroads, escape to freedom, since it makes little sense to steal ourselves away to the blues, to squeeze coppers together, and while underneath their voyeuristic gaze, we be intoxicated as they sing, ignoring their attempts to consider colonizing, contemplate confiscation of our whole culture, the park, the players, the fans, stuff that can't belong to nobody, and never give ownership a bloody cent. But then again, these the same folk turn entire institutions to ashes by conjuring the police in the first place, not so subtly dropping bombs and bullets, badge numbers shielding property around the entire community for those possessing assets to preserve. Understand this, Black folk. Once we call the police, if we are not careful, every movement after reinforces acting how we act can warrant their service and protection, translating the inevitable death of our people to the ungodly profits of whiteness. That is Effa versus Ray. So that's what I've been working on right now about some of the owners of Negro League baseball teams. Because what's interesting, as I'm sure this group knows all too well, as you look at the integration of Major League Baseball, while a net positive, there are some downsides, and one of them is that these Black institutions that had been built up primarily during the Great Depression are pretty much decimated and non-existent by the mid 50s. I would say even early, like the early 50s. And what do we do with that? How do we have that conversation? How do we keep that in our mind as we move forward? So, and I'm going to continue to talk about that a little bit as I read from this collection. This collection is titled "Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow: The Story of Josh Gibson." I'm going to read the first poem, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how this project kind of came about, and then read a couple more and be mindful of time so that we have an opportunity to field some questions. So this first poem is another form of poetry. I call it a World Series poem. That is 9 couplets to mirror a Major League Baseball game, and it has to be in some way, shape, or form tied to baseball. That's really the only requirement. You can have extra innings, and there's one that I will read that will have extra innings. You can also have a rain out or it end early. So this is Manifesto for Black Baseball Players, persona Josh Gibson. This is what I think Josh would have to say to me as a Black baseball player who played in the Southeastern Conference at the University of Kentucky. 1, never forget the 42 reasons baseball is best played with color. 2, steal bases like they stole this country. 3, break into record books, turn more than just they ink black. 4, pretend the ball is named Jim Crow. 5, decolonize the Hall of Fame. 6, remember we gave the game lights, helmets, and style. 7, never be controlled by anything white. 8, belt, lift every voice and sing during their national anthem. 9, find you a Helen, drop down on one knee, place a baseball field on her 4th finger. So this collection comes from when I was a high school senior. I played baseball at Tates Creek High School. And I was in co-op, so I could go work for iHigh, which was basically high school ESPN. It was headquartered here in Lexington, and I had a paid internship. So during baseball season, I was not working enough to get the hours necessary to stay eligible for baseball. So I needed to pick up an independent study. So I went to Phyllis Schlick, my creative writing teacher, and I was like, "Hey, I need an independent study. what can I do for you? And she says, well, you're going to write. Frank X. Walker had just come out with Isaac Murphy, I Dedicate This Ride, which is a collection of persona poems about a black jockey who owned a mansion downtown Lexington and had white butlers right after the Civil War. Um, like, I mean, this guy, we have a bike trail with a stop in honor of him. He's a big deal. So I start doing that through the lens of Jackie Robinson, Happy Chandler, another Kentuckian, and Branch Rickey. And I take the poems to her, and she very kindly tells me that they're trash, that they're terrible. And she says, your problem is that you've this is not the person that you need to be writing about. You don't know who that person is yet. You need to go do some research. So I go down to the library, and the librarians direct me to I believe it's The Power of the Darkness, Mark Rabowski's story or book on Josh Gibson, and I just remember being like, I know who Babe Ruth is. Why do I not know who Josh Gibson is? I felt as I'm turning these pages and finding out that the greatest hitter of all time, and arguably, I'm a little biased, the greatest player of all time, I did not know about until I was 18 years old. So I felt like I had been robbed in some way, and so I started writing these poems. And she was like, "I think this is it." And 10 years later, here's the book. So this next poem I'm going to read is titled Brooklyn, and it's a mirror poem. It will reference Harlem by Langston Hughes. The line, what happens to a dream deferred, is replaced with what happens to a dream assimilated. And Hooks Tinker is oftentimes credited with discovering Josh Gibson. This is Brooklyn, Hooks, Tinker. What happens to a dream assimilated? Does it splinter like a broken bat from a fastball on the hands? Or blister like palms after too many swings? Or rip like a tattered glove forgotten in the elements? Does it reek like molded cleats inside rejected locker rooms? Or is it colonized by weeds like abandoned fields? Maybe it's just heavy like a waterlogged ball, or the number 42 stitched on every jersey each April 15th. Or does it erode? Keeping with this Hooks Tinker voice, I'm gonna read this poem about what it must have been like to watch that first batting practice, that first time that you see the power uncovered. Hooks Tinker. First time I seen Josh, he was 16, black as the bravest of them soldiers in the Union Army, strong as the backs of all the mamas who found a way to carry us for 9 whole months, and big enough to pass for 30. This youngster grabbed a small 40-ounce tree, wrapped his fingers around the handle, waved it through the air a few times, and asked how recent the poor thing was chopped down. He whispered a little something to the bat right before he stepped to the plate. I never seen something so smooth. How Josh didn't rock or sway back before the pitch. He just waited there in the box like a snake to strike, with hands so fast that from left field you could hear the wind jump out the way. The ball couldn't move quick like the breeze. Found itself in a crater over 500 feet from home plate by the time it finished its long flight. Most impressive was the sound. It was like how the light splits the sky, or sometime a tree in one of them April storms down south. That was our first time hearing a ball wince. The next swing let us know it wasn't our last. This This next poem is a this is another World Series poem, and this one is it's got some extra innings, and this is as I alluded to earlier, uh, this concept of what how do we think about integration or maybe even just progress in general, and how do we have those conversations? Excuse me. So this is titled "Seen It Coming." It has a date 1951, and it is also from the persona of Hook's Tinker. When they came over to our fields in a Model Ts shaped like Spanish ships, dressed in the European suits, fat fingers gripping Cuban cigars, they lowered their anchors and tied their boats to docks of Negro League ballparks just long enough to marvel at all they future profit draped in baseball uniforms. They planted their feet on African-built shores, pulled out their stopwatches, pins, and jotters to measure the dollar signs they branded on each black muscle. This, how they searched for who would help them raise they new pennants for cheap or free. They picked out their favorites, plucked at bedrock until whole nations crumbled, watched their walls Jericho, raided all our resources, gave birth to the devil, then ripped off our eyelids to make sure we couldn't look away. Thank you. So this next one, I every time I read this one, I point out that I have not seen a barber in about 7 years. I love the barbershop. It's just expensive, and I got two kids. So this next poem is about I'm a huge fan of the old ways of, or at least the ways of baseball that I grew up with. I want the game to take a long time. If I'm going to a baseball game, I want it to be an all day thing. And what the Negro Leagues provided was that. You're usually going to the game somewhere around a bunch of folks of color. There's stuff to do before, and there's usually a lot to do after the game as well. And one of the this poem I actually wrote after visiting the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City with my mom, and there's an exhibit in there with there's a barbershop. It's like, what would it be like to walk into the barbershop and see Josh Gibson getting his hair cut and then walk down with him to the field and then go watch him play? So this is that poem, Persona, Josh Gibson, pregame cut. I wish my hair grew the speed of my bat through the zone and make it so I need to take a trip to my barber every morning. It's like when them clippers first click, buzz their way through to a new man. We can laugh away the big boss, the policeman that said we too dark to be anywhere. Our woman at home waiting inside the front door, hip cocked to one side, toed the shape of an arm holding up a child, and our other woman crosstown who makes us forget all at the same time. Seems some energy, almost magic, hides itself in the alcohol burn, the near fights, the real ones, the awkward way us men pretend we don't love each other, and finds its way down deep inside where the baseball player lives and demands me to walk the whole 3 blocks down the street to the field. On game days, the old man playing checkers in the corner that no one ever sits in, pretending the ashtray across the board is his opponent, likes to gloat that he is undefeated. But then he'll jive how a home run always comes the same day I end up underneath my barber's hands. And I perk up because he might just be right. He likes to call me the reverse Samson. And I wish my hair grew fast, that my strength came from a fresh cut, and life was the inside of a black barbershop. So this next poem is let's see. I'm gonna read. So it's broken up into sections. I'm actually gonna sneak one in here. Um, this is this is another kind of formal poem. It's a telegram. So Chester Washington was a reporter for the Pittsburgh Courier. Excuse me, for the Pittsburgh Courier, and sent a telegram to the Pittsburgh Pirates, because at this time the best two of the best teams of all time in baseball history, the Pittsburgh Crawfords and the Homestead Grays, are right down the street from the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are at that moment and at times still um, uh, competing with themselves for last place. Is the way that I like to describe it. So this is a telegram to Pittsburgh Pirates, Chester Washington. White newspapers claim pennant needed. Stop. Black ball players, the answer. Stop. Satchel Paige, pitcher. Stop. Cool Papa Bell, outfield. Stop. All Pittsburgh Crawfords. Stop. Buck Leonard, first base. Stop. Ray Brown, pitcher. Stop. Josh Gibson, catcher. Stop. All Homestead Grays. Stop. All affordable, ready to win. Stop. Ready to prove they can play. So this next poem, Josh Gibson would spend some time down south playing baseball, away from the states, and he the kids would stay with grandmother, with family. And so this story is one where Josh Gibson Jr. Decided that he was going to call his sister Helen out of her name. Gator Belt, Josh Jr., persona. I used to practice my 4-letter words on Helen when I knew Papa was too far away to hear them. If he was still in the States, I'd say them real fast just in case he was coming by for an unscheduled visit to drop off some just cuz money. If he was down in Puerto Rico or somewhere in land south of Mexico, and especially if he was down in the DR or Cuba, I'd let them slide out slow and long to make sure they bite hard enough. Granny heard one of these and told Papa when he made his way back from work about 6 months later. That woman can't remember to cut off the oven, but after all that time can recall exactly how I sounded, even matching the small, grown-up bass in my voice. Apparently, alligators got nasty mouths too. And one of them must have got slick and called Papa out his name, because he came home and his granny told him the story. He just nodded his head, pulled the skin of that gator from around his waist, and cut both my cheeks raw with a beating so good that gator about came back to life. That was the last time Helen or Granny had any troubles from my tongue, and I ain't been that close to a gator since. For some reason, my mom loves that one. We won't read into that one too much. But this next poem is titled Outfield Cot. And this is, when I was doing my research, I found that when they would travel, when Negro League teams would travel and there wasn't somewhere to stay, they would sleep at times in the outfield grass. And at the time, I'm playing baseball at the University of Kentucky, and we've got it's called individuals, so only 4 guys can practice at a time. So you got like weird times where you practice and you got weights in an hour and a half, so that's not enough time to go back to the dorm because you still got to shower and everything, but you don't want to shower because you got weights. So what are you going to do with this hour and a half? And it wouldn't be uncommon to see, but I'm 6 foot, about 215, 220. I'm actually 5'11", but we won't tell anybody. And I was one of the smaller guys. And there were only 3 couches, so it wouldn't be uncommon to see, 10, 15 guys squeezing onto these three couches trying to take a nap before we've got to go to weights. And as I was doing this research and experiencing that, I was like, this seems tragic, and in some ways it is, but also these guys loved each other. Um, and anybody who's ever been on a team, especially a good team, where the guys or the folks on that team like each other, um, this wouldn't be necessarily a miserable experience. So this is what I envision Josh Gibson to say about sleeping in the outfield grass. Sometimes when we on the road and we need a place to stay and just hop on a bus full of everything we own and ride till we stumble across the nearest inn. When we real lucky, the moon looked like a pearl before the first pitch, and the stars light up just enough for innkeeps to see all the black on our faces that they don't want to rub off on their pillowcases. Then pretend to read some sheet that says they at capacity for the night. Around that time, we all bob our heads as if we understand what he mean and walk real proud to the bus to ride the few blocks down the street to the park. Once we there, we each find us a spot somewhere in the outfield grass, get real comfortable on our fresh cut cot, and all my teammates count sheep. I don't waste my time with that foolishness. I like to lay back, like to count the stars, see if I can't pick out the one I'm about to hit next. So I got two more, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'm gonna go back a little bit to the beginning of the book, and one of the things that happens in this collection is as I was working on it, I was like, why is Josh Gibson hitting so many home runs? There's got to be some reason. And early on in my research, I found out that Josh Gibson's wife, Helen Gibson, tragically passed, giving birth to Helen Josh Gibson Jr. And the twins survived. And I'm like, what if Josh is writing love letters to Helen? So this is Josh's first home run number one. Dear Helen, I snuck this one into the bucket of game balls, sealed the envelope by stitching it closed with the bright red laces from your favorite shoes. Spent hours trying to squeeze each second of 2 years into 5.25 ounces of white leather wound tight around the core of a ball. This is my first letter, the first of many. Just one of these can't hold all this love, so I will pretend each ball can fly its way through the stars to you. I'll split each message up, ball after ball, home run after home run, till God get tired of all them broken windows up in heaven and bring me there too. Love, Josh. And so this last poem that I'm going to read is titled "The Walk Off," and I've got to take a drink of water before I read this one. And the entire collection is written in persona with the exception of one poem. It's also written in sections. So there's different. So we start out 0-0, beginning of the game, and then I did like the book is broken up each time that Josh has some impact on the game. That's the title of the section. Or it tells you the score and where we're at. In the extra innings section, or the free baseball section, as I like to call it, I finished the collection with the only poem that I write from, all of them are my point of view, but this is the only one that is not in persona. This is me, and this is The Walk Off, or I Visit Josh's Grave. Get up, Josh. You ain't no Lazarus. You don't need Jesus, no God. You just you. Here's a bat. Get up. Get up. Get up, Josh. I brought you a glove. Let's play catch. I ain't much on pitching, but we can hit if you just get up. They let us play now, you hear? They let us play. And they say you was the greatest. You hear me? The greatest there ever was. And I want to see. Can I see? Can you get up? It's me. I'm just a fan. My name is Dorian. I got power, but not like you. I read about you once. My high school librarian found the only book in the whole school that mentioned your name, and my English teacher told me to write about you. And I brought some poems for you. If you want to listen, that's cool, but I just want to play. Can we play? I know it's weird, me standing over your grave and such, but I think it's weird you're pretending to sleep, so please just get up. They let us play now. They even said sorry, let you in the Hall of Fame, gave you your record that I know you already had. Maybe one day name the award after you, but they say it's better now. They ain't lynching us no more. They don't kill us as much, and we can work for them for more money now, and it's cool. And we done rewrote the record books, and we didn't even have you, but you got to get up to see. You got to get up. Get up, Josh. I'm putting together a team. You were my first pick, but you got to get up, please. I know you ain't Lazarus, and Jesus ain't done much for us, so I figured I'd just ask you straight. Get up. I even got you a uniform if you just rise up. I want to see. I want to see what they kept me from. I want to see what they was afraid of. Get up, Josh. Get up. You can't die. Please. Just get up. Thank you. Well, Ted, I think you're muted.
What a wonderful sample of a 45 poem book. It took me 2 hours to read it on the bus coming back from this year's Malloy conference. Once I started reading, I couldn't stop.
Thank you.
I have two questions for you, and then I'm hoping we get some questions from the audience. First, are you related to the baseball Hairstons?
Um, to my knowledge, no. My claim to fame, though, is that when I was playing baseball at the University of Kentucky, I had a good game. I actually think it's the so I played baseball UK. Our rival is the school down the road with a little bird as its mascot. The oh goodness, what is that? The Cardinals. There we go. Cardinals. I don't know how I forgot that. My little brother played shortstop for the Cardinals. He won a Gold Glove. I believe it was his junior year before he got drafted by the Brewers. And I hit a home run, a pinch hit home run off of one of the Birdie brothers to put us within one. And as I'm rounding second base, my brother's at shortstop, and I was gonna trash talk him a little bit, but there were cameras, and I wanted to keep it PG, so I just stared him down, and it made the news. And I believe that's when I believe it was Scott Hairston DM'd me and asked if we were related. And I had to say, unfortunately, not to my knowledge. I checked the family historian, and she couldn't find anything. So at the moment, I don't believe so. But that would have been really awesome when I was trying to get drafted.
And a great story. One more from me. One of my pet peeves is the need for more Negro League players in that Cooperstown Museum. So, what do you mean by decolonize the Hall of Fame?
Ooh, good question. So actually, there's an earlier publication of this poem in Blackbone, 25 years of the Affrilachian Poets. So that was published about a decade ago because we turned 35 this next year. But it did not say decolonize; it just said colonize the Hall of Fame. But I added that D late on in the editorial process. And what I mean by that is, one, how do we make sure that the Hall of Fame is an actual representation and reflection of the greatest players to ever play the game? How do we make sure that picture is complete by decolonizing it? Because the absence of these characters, or the absence of these individuals in the Hall of Fame at its outset, is a form of colonization. So by decolonizing the Hall of Fame, it will look like colonization, but that is not what it is. When you are righting a wrong, sometimes it might appear that in the process of righting that wrong, that you are doing the very same thing, but that is not the case. We are giving a more complete, a more whole story to this, what I think is America's greatest game. And I will go as far as to say the world's greatest game, but that's because I wasn't very good at any of the other ones.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask a question now in another voice. This is the voice of Bob Poet, who's in our audience. And he wants to know your poetry reminds me somewhat of Elizabeth Acevedo, author of The Poet X. Do you have any connection with her?
No, I do not. The Poet X, I will add that to my reading list. A lot of my this is something that my students have read. I was trying to picture the cover. A lot of my influences are obviously Frank X. Walker. A big huge influence for this collection in particular was Tahimba Jess's Leadbelly, about the blues musician. And there's actually a poem in here written from the bat's point of view. It comes from a poem in that collection, or it is inspired by a poem in that collection, in which I think it's Mistress Stella Speaks is the name of the poem, but one of the guitars is talking about what the experience is like for them making that music. And then I mean, there's a long list. James Baldwin, Octavia Butler, all of those folks are also influences. I'm sure I will add her to the list.
Bob adds one more comment. The Poet X is one of those banned books these days in our local K-12 system.
Yes.
Okay. There's no other questions in the chat. Sean, what could we unmic oh, here comes another. I'm betting this is Bob again. No, this is Will Clark, and he's commenting, underscoring what Bob just pointed out. And I think Will's also referring to your work, Dorian. He says, these poems are so relevant.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I just want to, could you tell us how we could order the book?
So I have a website, DGH poet.com. And you can order the book there for everybody in here today. I sign them and ship them out. Actually, my parents ship them out. Just put your name, and then also underneath that put that you were here, and I'll talk to Sean.
And Sean, could we just unmute people and
Yeah, I
have them
did. I
raise their?
unmuted them.
Okay,
So if anybody wants to
great.
talk, they can talk.
Yeah, so let's raise your hand if you want to talk.
Hmm.
And if that doesn't work, we'll just. Here comes Bob. Bob?
Let's see.
I think, Bob, was that you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, super. Hey, I liked a lot of your poems. One of
Thank
my
you.
favorite was, I think it was the last one you read about to Helen, as a love letter to Helen.
Yes.
And then earlier in another poem you mentioned find yourself a Helen, and I take that to mean Helen the wife, Helen the
Yes.
woman. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And that in turn reminds me, it's like a tribute, in my opinion, to sort of a poetic opposite of Helen, and that would be Rachel Robinson. Rachel Robinson's just turned 103, and of course Helen died so much younger.
Right.
But I also am reminded with your the mentions of find yourself a Helen. That was one of the things that Branch Rickey asked of Jackie. Do you have a woman? And
And
and he
yeah.
said yes, and it's funny because I asked that of a political adversary last year during elections, and he didn't get the relevance of it. But so I explained it. I said, well, I didn't use uh, Branch Rickey but I said, it just makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. So I'm pleased that you acknowledge the women and, of course, Effa Manley. So
And I
that's
was actually getting ready
affiliating.
to segue into Effa, because one of the things she did as a manager, which like I respect, is her players would they would get fan mail, and she would sift through it and kind of make sure that anybody that had in her opinion what her opinion was ill intent, those letters would not make them or make their way to the players. She also believed
Mhm.
that having having a solid support system wasn't just good for you as a player, and I mean it was good business, but also just good for you as a person, as a human being. That like we need that.
Yes. I
That's
I
important.
recall
So
her
important.
finding she had contacts in Puerto Rico and the others, and she'd get her favorite players and best players and get them in the door so they had some winter ball to play.
Right. She had the I think it's called the Blue Goose. She had she purchased a bus with air conditioning that the whole team traveled on, and it was a big
Nice.
deal whenever the bus came to town. So I mean, I'm really excited about the other research that I'm doing as well.
Mhm. Will had something to say, I
Bill,
think.
what do you got, Will?
Dorian,
Yes,
the fact that you are so knowledgeable of the game and its history, even though you say that you're not necessarily directly related to the Hairstons, I can't help but believe that there is a tie-in.
right.
I believe that because I felt everything that you were saying
Thank you.
in the reading of these books.
Thank you.
David?
I love it.
Oh, no, that was
Appreciate that.
William again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Another one of my
Question?
oh, I better raise my hand here just a minute. Another one of my favorites was well the Gator one because that's the kind of discipline I got from my dad. All right, but Ches says Chester Washington. Yeah, he's one of my favorites, and I'm glad that you included his telegram. I have that. I've posted that. I'll dig it up and throw it up there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you almost got him word for word on that telegram that he sent, and he sent it to I think it was Pie Trainer, the manager of the
Right.
Pittsburgh Pirates back then, and then he also, of course, put it in the in the Courier. So that was, just the subject matter sometimes are good. Now I'm going to bring Will into this because Will, because we haven't talked about the elephant in the room. How come Josh Gibson isn't getting more recognition? Yes, he's in the Hall of Fame, but I've gone to discussions online and they say, "Oh, who's the greatest catcher?" And they can go down like up to 140 comments without mentioning Josh Gibson. And this is not greatest ball player. This is just catcher.
Happy
So,
Chandler said very clearly Josh Gibson is the greatest catcher he ever saw. And he said that in his 70s, I believe it was.
okay, yeah, yeah,
I
and
mean,
who else? I am wearing. Too bad we don't have video, but I'm wearing here my Baltimore Elite Giants jersey right now, and the connection to Josh Gibson is is Roy Campanella. Roy
Mhm.
Campanella and Josh Gibson faced off on separate teams, the Grays against the Elite Giants in 1939 for the Negro National League Championship Series. And they had nearly identical lines on the. I think it went 5 games, and the Elite Giants won.
Right.
Um, Now, the reason that Will Clark recently posted a link to a story that I wasn't able to read entirely because they had too many hoops to jump through.
Right.
They weren't exactly paywalls, but like you had to do this, use this QR code, and promise to join this group. And it's like, I didn't do that, but the name of it was. It was the hyperbole of now. And I believe that the gist of it was we have a natural bias to stuff that's happened lately. And that is one of the obstacles that Josh Gibson faces. He
Right.
is, he wasn't in the Major League Baseball system at all. Whereas Roy Campanella was. And Roy Campanella was with the Dodgers. And right
Right.
now, the Dodgers are hot and happening. So if you want something current about Josh Gibson, I think Roy Campanella is the pathway to that.
Right.
Roy Campanella, and there is a picture, and I think I don't know that he's with us right now, but Tate, what's his first name? He shared with me, and also there's Rita Brown, and this is just back 10 years ago, but they posted a photo of Josh Gibson shaking hands with Roy Campanella. And in 1939, Josh Gibson was right at the peak of his powers.
Right.
And Josh and Campanella was 17. There's a 10-year difference between the two. So anyway, I don't know how this would work out or how this would go, but in order to make Josh Gibson now go the route of Campanella and the Dodgers, so he's 2 degrees away from that.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, yes, but also like I do think that once folks hear the story of Josh Gibson, like once folks understand just how, I mean, the one of the stories is that when Rafael Leonidas Trujillo takes over the Dominican Republic, he pays Satchel Paige to put together a team, and of course Satchel Paige, ever the businessman, it's like the first person I need to call is Josh. And I mean, oh good goodness, what is his name that played for the Cardinals? He was the Dizzy Dean. Dean took himself out the game when in a barnstorming game because Josh had a double and a home run off of him. I think that once folks get that story, like once folks understand exactly how great of a ball player he was, the story stands alone, and stands for itself. I mean, I spent hours listening to Happy Chandler. Because actually I know his granddaughter, Erin Chandler. She lives in Versailles, just right next door to Lexington, Kentucky, where I'm situated or where I'm stationed. And Happy Chandler spends hours talking about all these baseball players and the relationships he has, and all he can say about Josh Gibson is he's the greatest I've ever seen. And if folks hear that story, there's no disputing that. I do think that there are a plethora of ways that could be utilized to make sure that folks understand. If you were talking about the greatest catchers and this man is not on this list, you do not have an opinion worth listening to.
Right. Agreed.
Unfortunately, we live in an age where everything is so visual.
Yes.
And that's the major issue with people like Josh Gibson, Rap Dixon, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough visual regarding poems. And there's also the, for whatever reason, Negro Leaguers, they're still classified as semi-pro or non-major league, when in reality, they were major league. Every single one of them.
You have to face Satchel Paige every week. You were playing in the major leagues.
Hello. Hello.
Yep. Uh-huh.
If you play 3 games in one day or 4 in one day, that's not amateur.
Right.
Yeah. Will, I want to thank you again for introducing me to Negro League Baseball. It's been a joyous pursuit for me. I know that it doesn't, the urgency that I hear and in your poetry here, Dorian, and a lot of other places, I don't share that. This is a joyous journey for me. This is about love and happiness,
Right.
and it brings this to me.
Right.
So I know I'm coming from a little bit different place. I'm on a different road with the same destination. But I will say to you, and you brought this up, Will, just now, you're always introducing me to new facets that I come to enjoy. So thank you again for that. And you just said something moments ago about being visual. Well, I have something yeah, you're right. Something visual that brings Josh Gibson to life now. Now, one thing is, if you look at Fran Matthews, his son, he paints. Do I get the name right there? Is it, or is Fran his dad? Anyway,
Fran is his dad.
What's that?
Fran is his dad.
Fran's his dad. Ooh, then what's his name?
His name
Darryl.
is Daryl Matthews.
There it is.
Darryl
Yeah.
Matthews.
Look at his art. He's the visual, and his art is alive. It moves. It's it's paintings, but
Right.
and there's one of Josh Gibson, and he's got that sequence of him swinging the bat. Okay, so that's one. Now here's another that I have not seen, but I'd love to see. And I'm a Giants fan, San Francisco Giants, right? So they play at what I still call Pac Bell Park. That's the original name for it. Now it's called Oracle. But and they've been some names in between too. But they have that great big glove out there in left center field, right? You know, you've seen it, right? Josh Gibson hit a ball 580 feet. Somebody has to do a stat cast of where that would land. And I think it's over the top of that glove.
Right.
Now, if somebody can get that in, you just say, hey, this man hit a ball that would have carried over the glove and Pac Bell. And I did do a graphic of that. I'm going to share that with you on your Facebook page here, the one that's the one I saw to get
Perfect.
onto this thing. So watch for that. I don't have all the answers, but there's I agree with Will that if there's got to be a visual, and there's got to be something that brings Josh Gibson to life now.
Right.
And these things can happen.
Agreed.
So hey guys, we got a couple minutes left before we wrap up. So is there any other questions for Dorian?
Dorian, when are you going to be doing this again?
I have on the website, I have events that I throw on there. So just check the events. They're synced to I got a Google Calendar, and it just automatically publishes there. You can also just send me a message on there and it comes in my email. During the school year, it's a little slow. I'm a little slow to respond. because of the day job, but I will get back to you. So check there, email me, and I'll give you an update on anything I got coming up. There's a couple of things that I got in the works for 2026, but those haven't been finalized yet. But once they are, I will make sure that those go up, and I'm gonna try to do a better job on my Facebook as well, pubbing that stuff.
Okay, well, I'll definitely check that out. And thank you again for your poetry, and I look forward to more.
Thank you.
All right,
This was a
everybody.
great time. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Everybody,
You
thank you
bet.
for joining us. I want to announce our next speaker for next month, who's actually on the call. Kevin Johnson, thanks for joining us today. Kevin will be joining us December 6th, the first Saturday, the December 6th. And Kevin will be speaking about Negro League ballparks and how they impacted the statistics of various teams and players. So Kevin Johnson is on here. Kevin, you on here still?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So we're
Um,
looking forward to hearing your presentation. So guys, you can go to our
Same here.
website, joshgibson.org, click on Nigga League Matter, scroll down. You'll see the registration link. And of course, it'll be out on Facebook next week, but you can also register on our website, joshgibson.org. Click on Nigga League Matters webinars and scroll down. You'll see the link to register for Kevin Johnson's presentation. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday and hope you have a great weekend, rest of the weekend. So thank you.
Hang with
Thank
us,
you.
Dorian.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
One thing I wanted to say to you, Dorian, and this is a testament to you. No